Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. After announcing complete and total obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities at Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan, the US President Donald Trump on 23rd announced Iran and Israel had agreed to a complete and total ceasefire. The President later tweeted on his social account, Truth social account, "Ceasefire is now in effect. Please do not violate it." He congratulated Iran and Israel leadership for showing stamina, courage, and intelligence to end the hostilities. He added, "This is the war which could have gone for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will." Now, President Trump's announcement came hours after Iran launched a missile attack on Al Udeid base, the US base in Qatar. The missile attack was successfully foiled and there were no reports of injuries or deaths. Apparently, the Iranian officials had forewarned the Qataris about the impending retaliatory strike. Qatar is also credited with having persuaded Iran to agree to the US-sponsored ceasefire. And Mr. Trump, in a statement, said, "I'd like to thank the highly respected Emir of Qatar for all that he has done in seeking peace for the region." Ladies and gentlemen, ceasefire does not imply that the issues have been resolved or that the root cause has been eliminated. To transfer or to convert ceasefire into a peace agreement, the sides have to sit down and talk. Iran would be expected to resume negotiations not only with the US but also with E3, and there are indications that Iran is ready for that, as there are already contacts between the Iranian side and the American side headed by Mr. Steve Witkoff. How things will unfold, this is something which I will discuss with my panelists, Ambassador Asif Durrani and Ambassador Riaz Bukhari. Asif, let me come to you first, mate. Now, the ceasefire is not the result of a proper negotiations or talks. No framework has been decided. It almost faltered when there were reports of violation from both the sides. How durable do you think this arrangement will be, or alternatively, let me say, how feeble is this arrangement?
Well, unpredictability is the hallmark of this whole episode. And so you can't say for sure that this peace is going to last. Reason is that Iran has incurred many losses, infrastructure losses, human losses, and so has Israel, even if proportionately their losses are quite less. Still, how this ceasefire came into being is more important.
Very right, yes.
And otherwise, we were fearing that it may expand and it may perhaps engulf the entire region, actually. And there were talks of closing Strait of Hormuz, and already oil prices had jumped up 10%, and there was likelihood that it will go further. Pakistan's stock exchange lost 5,000 points. Which luckily it gained yesterday, again more than 5,000. So this was the fluctuation all over. If it happened in Pakistan, you can imagine that what would have been the situation around the world. And everyone was worried about the future of oil supplies, which in any case, and it would have impacted us a lot. So here, the issue is that it was just not Iran and Israel. It was not the US and Israel.
It was the world at large.
Yeah, but here in President Trump's message, when he talked about the ceasefire, he blessed Iran and he also blessed Israel. So that shows that I think something was going on behind the scenes. And it is just not Qatar. I think there are reports that Turkey also played
correct. Yes,
behind the scenes role, and no one wanted a flare up. So I think this
how
is what I can say.
how about the talk that Russia also had a role to play in promoting the ceasefire? Because you see, before the ceasefire was announced, the Iranian foreign minister was in Moscow, and he had met Mr. Putin, and Mr. Putin had strongly condemned US for this aggression.
Here at the political plane or diplomatic plane, you can say that there were a lot of condemnation against the US and Israel. Even Saudi Arabia
as far as
Emirates.
Russia is concerned, there was more of condemnation, because there are, I mean, if you have, I'm sure you have read that Mr. Medvedev, the former president and close associate of Mr. Putin, he said that there are countries which are prepared to give their nuclear weapons to Iran.
I think
that must have shaken Mr. Trump.
That was a veiled threat also. If you read between the lines, so it was a veiled threat, and I think that has worked. And but this, you can say that these are the various forms of diplomacy, and here it should be, in fact, taught in the foreign service academies that how you can, if you want to de-escalate the tensions. So this is also a way. Tensions have not gone down, but you can say you can, in fact, end the war situation. That is important.
Yes, coming to you, Iran, Israel has warned that campaign against Iran is not over. That's very ominous warning. Now, judging from the statements of the Israeli political leadership, Israel can conduct preemptive strikes if it thinks it is merited, if it thinks that Iran's nuclear program is escalating. And then, Riaz, a number of cabinet members of Bibi Netanyahu, they are strongly opposed to the ceasefire, and even his own Likud party members have criticized him. Even I think Bibi was not in favor of the ceasefire, as his own political survival is stake. How catastrophic can this become if this ceasefire was to falter?
According to some reports, particularly on social media, Bibi was more interested to have the ceasefire because the sufferings which Israeli population was undergoing, it was unprecedented. They never have seen such type of missiles hitting the soil of Israel. People were they going to the underground bunkers. They were spending a lot of time and evenings
in the bunkers.
Yeah, so I think
but they're used to it. Yes?
There was pressure on Israel as well to go for the ceasefire because they could not fully achieve their targets. They could not eliminate all the nuclear sites of Israel. Then the United States had to intervene. So I think.
But you see, United States intervened at the behest and force of Mr. Netanyahu.
Under pressure of Netanyahu. From Israel. They opted for that because President Trump first gave 2 weeks to Iran.
But on the 4th day he conducted the strikes.
Within 36 hours, American planes were there to eliminate whatever sites they had. So I think Israel was quite under pressure. They never expected that Iran will resist Israel's aggression to that extent which they had faced.
But how serious is the statement emanating from the Israeli leaders that that the campaign against Iran is not yet over?
Same way you can say, the Iranians are saying the same thing. They have not compromised on their position as far as.
But Iranians have also said, Riaz, Iranians have also said that, Iranian foreign minister said that if Israel does not attack, we will not conduct an attack. Israel says that our campaign against Iran is not yet over.
Yeah, obviously. But if the US pressure is there, there will be no preemptive strike against Iran by the state of Israel. This is what we have seen,
Yes.
yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, Asif, coming to you. Now, President Trump's approach to international relations is more reactive and quite often contradictory. We have seen in his handling of Iran affairs that he started by distancing himself from Israeli attacks, later became actively involved in it and a participant of it, then called Iran for Iran's unconditional surrender, then negotiated a ceasefire, and then oscillated on regime change. How committed is he? Do you think he's committed to the ceasefire? And what are the odds that he won't change his mind on this thing?
Well, it's an interesting question. President Trump is famous for his rhetoric, and his 2 weeks mantra is just not in the case of Iran. In fact, in earlier occasions also, this has become a pet word. When he talks about certain actions, he said, it is going to happen in 2 weeks. So he has repeatedly, and there are, now many documentaries which are telling about that, on how many occasions President Trump has used this word 2 weeks. And more importantly here, President Trump in this situation, when the attacks have stopped, he has built his image.
Exactly. That's a very strong. That's a very correct point. Yeah.
And that is also showing that somehow he had the plans that yes, you have to quote unquote punish Iran. And then more importantly, that you have to tell the world that Iran will not be allowed to have nuclear know-how. That is questionable because the 30,000-pound bomb which they used in Fordow.
Not one.
Yeah, not one, but 13. They used 2 in Natanz also. Those bombs may have quote unquote obliterated the buildings, but Iranians are quite rational people and they are quite clever also. You think that if they have a dedicated facility of making nuclear bomb, they would have housed those facilities in an IAEA safeguarded premises? I have my doubts. And then they already had the advance notice about these bombings. So if that 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium was not found, and luckily there are no radiation incidents in either of the facility, whether it's Fordow, Natanz or Isfahan. So that shows that it was already somehow in advance
Relocated.
Iran was told, and Iran had relocated.
Not only that, Asif, Iran was definitely informed that the strikes were coming by Gulf allies, but much before that, Iran had relocated its uranium 200 kilograms from Fordow, 200 kilograms from Natanz, and there is a talk that Iran has another nuclear plant at an undisclosed location, and this material was transported in canisters to that place.
Quite possible. You cannot rule out. But the message was, and that message still stays, is that America is not going to allow Iran to have nuclear know-how.
But Asif, Mr. Trump said that we had completely obliterated these nuclear facilities. Now that intelligence assessment, initial intelligence assessment of US has said that yes, you may have substantially damaged the nuclear facilities, but that would mean that you have that the program has been moved back for a couple of months, not even years.
Yes.
And this is exactly what the IAEA chief has said, that the program, that these facilities have been substantially damaged, but the program is still there. Yes.
No, there is no credible report on this. It is just, some media speculation about, how much damage has been caused to the three sides. Neither, Iran nor the US has issued any credible statement on that, except that, what President Trump has said in his tweets. So I believe that, the amount of, the three, what they call special, buster bunkers have been used. So I believe, the sites could have been totally damaged. I don't believe that it's just substantial to some extent or part of it. If they are using that amount of ammunition to cause damage and having all the reports available with them, including videos, and the president is saying that we have finished that, so we should believe it. Why we should?
Again, it is the controversy within the US.
Yes.
And President Trump was actually quite cryptic about their own intelligence agencies' assessment.
Exactly.
And it was quite embarrassing for him.
Even his intelligence chief, what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
She said that we have no evidence. And what does Mr. Trump say? He says she's wrong, right? So
I believe President has some other means of getting the information as well.
Well, that quite possible. But given his nature and given his style of indulging in rhetoric, you can.
But the fact remains that, as you said, that he has invested heavily in this ceasefire, his personal reputation. He would support this ceasefire, and I don't know what you gentlemen say, but I don't think Mr. Trump is going back to attack these nuclear facilities again.
Imran, again, you can't say for sure, because Iran is not going to give up its nuclear program.
Obviously not.
And if these facilities are quote unquote obliterated, so Iran will house them somewhere. And then I think we have also seen that Israel attacked, when Israel first attacked, it wiped out Iran's top military brass and scientists. That was a job of the insiders, and Mossad in fact could successfully identify those areas where those top military brass was to be eliminated. So I think Mossad's footprint is still very strong.
Still very there
inside
and
Iran.
Yes.
So you never know.
And this is one of the formidable challenges
and then
for
on
Iran.
This nuclear issue, irrespective of the party affiliation, there is a strong feeling about having a nuclear know-how, which Iran already has the know-how. Now, it is only a matter of time or political decision that has to be made. That's why the question of regime change came. Because if Americans, they thought that if they cannot convince the present dispensation in Iran to abandon their nuclear program, so through regime change they can possibly come to that.
But as a regime change would not only, regime change does not come through aerial bombing. They would need to have boots on ground for that. Yes,
I just want to add, what Asif has said. Iran has received, incurred heavy losses in the face of, Israel's bombardment in 12 days. But they did not leave the NPT. They are still, signatory of the NPT. So there is declared, statements reiterated many times by the Iranian leadership that they have no plan to go nuclear. Right? Despite 60%, 80%, 90%, whatever percentage they have.
60%, yes.
So, but their persons claim that they were only 2 weeks away or 1 month away from going nuclear. But they have not left the NPT so far, despite heavy odds. And they were.
But there's strong pressure on the regime from the parliamentarians even that Iran should exit the NPT. Now,
if I can add one sentence. Leaving NPT would reconfirm the suspicion from the West and Americans that Iran has got
nuclear weapons intentions.
Iran would not want to give that impression, even if they have the capability. So here, I think
We'll
Iran
come to this,
is quite,
Asif, we'll come
you
to
know,
this. Now, gentlemen, the next logical step should be negotiations for permanent peace. US has asked Iran to resume talks. So has E3. Now, again, the issue of when these talks start, the issue of uranium enrichment will be there. Do you think a much weakened Iran will negotiate on enrichment rights? What are the chances that US will agree to the old formula of limited enrichment, no nuclear weapons?
Yeah. When
3.67%.
When the E3 or the US, whenever they say Iran should come back to the negotiation table, they always issue such an offer with a caveat that Iran would not be allowed. So what negotiation they are going to have? No? Number one. Number two, in the current scenario, the top leadership of the nuclear scientists have been eliminated by Israel. The main negotiator who was part of these 5 sessions of negotiation, he has been eliminated. He is no more here. Now Iran has to prepare, the new leadership who should enter into negotiation, they need time. So I believe they will come back to the negotiation tables, but Iran has already stated that they are ready to negotiate. But when you say that you don't have the power to go beyond 60%, so what negotiation they are going to have?
No, Riaz, you see, my question is that do you think the old formula which was in the JCPOA, that 3.67%, Iran was allowed 3.67% of enrichment, but no nuclear weapons, one thing. Second thing, there was to be intense inspections by IAEA representatives. Now, do you think that formula would be agreed upon again?
Let me explain this in a way that JCPOA was not accepted by the United States, especially Trump.
Mr. Trump was nice.
While it allows 3.67% enrichment. United States wants complete, Iran should not
abandon
have
its enrichment.
The facility to even go for 3.67% because we are talking about the know-how.
Not the Americans, Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump, right now he is ruling. And this 3.67% technology is the same. Process is the same, that from 3.67%, which Mr. Jawad Zarif said that when America left JCPOA, so we started enhancing its percentage and now it has reached 60%. Implied in his message was that if you don't talk, if you don't cooperate with Iran, then the percentage can go up. So this
and it did go up.
It didn't. And more importantly, Iran would be allowed to have nuclear fuel under IAEA safeguards, not manufactured, not produced inside Iran. Like Bushehr's case, it is Russia which supplies the fuel. So perhaps as a compromise, United States may agree for nuclear fuel supplied by third sources, not produced inside Iran. This was, that's why that during the past 5 rounds of talks, this was the sticking point and there was no progress on that. So that's important.
Now, Asif, again, would that old formula of 3.67% come back? I'm sure Iran would be willing to agree to that, but would the US and E3 accept that?
3.67% E3 had accepted already.
Yes, of course.
But
even the
US
Americans had accepted that. Otherwise, JCPOA wouldn't have been
Obama's
signed.
time, yes. But now we are talking about Trump. He even opposed that when he was not in power. And once he came, the first thing he did was he
came out of it.
quit JCPOA. So it was a big setback, and that setback is and that has in fact diplomatically strengthened Iran's position. But who cares? Reason is its might is right. So United States has dictated its terms, and now Trump has taken another route, and that is that first bomb them and then talk about peace.
Under pressure.
Yes. So Iran is under pressure. There's no doubt about it. When they are going to resume their activity, that needs to be watched.
As if resumption of the activities is still far off, but the question is that will Iran has till now resisted all pressure by the E3 and by US that to stop enrichment, that it should the enriched uranium should be imported. Iran has resisted this so far. Now, will Iran agree to this at this point?
As I said, Iran is under pressure now.
Iran is definitely
Right.
under pressure.
IAEA reports, which were issued earlier, and 19 countries in the IAEA board supported that, resolution. And then later on, 12 days war, situation has totally changed now. So whatever agreement is going to be there after the new negotiations, it will be automatically JCPOA plus. What that will be, I don't know. I'm not an expert on this issue. But I would like to hear, Asif, and from you. Iran is a signatory of NPT. Israel is not. Why there is no pressure on Israel to sign NPT?
That's irony of fate. That's irony of history.
So
That's
we should discuss
Yes,
that.
we should. Asif, coming to you. Mr. Trump said the strikes completely and totally obliterated Iran's key nuclear facilities. Now, the preliminary US intelligence assessment has determined that the airstrikes have set back Iran's program by only a matter of months. IAEA chief says very significant damage was done. That's what his statement was. Now, if the intelligence assessment is correct, how will it impact the ceasefire, future negotiations, and peace in the region?
It all depends on, I think, and a greater role has to be played by IAEA to confirm. Because these facilities which were bombed by the United States were under the IAEA safeguards.
Exactly. That's
And IAEA did not report any unusual activity, except for the 60% which was announced by Iran, not by the IAEA. So Iran, in a way, was having chicken game with its interlocutors, whether United States or other European countries. So this will continue, and the tensions on the nuclear issue would continue. But now they have also found a way how not to go to war. And there were also reports that perhaps when the United States or Israel, when they together they will push for regime change, it is going to materialize. It did not, because everyone knew that unless there are boots on ground, it's not going to
regime
bring
change
any
won't happen.
change whatsoever.
Yes.
And that's how I think things stand today. Tomorrow, you never know.
But still, Riaz, if the White House, even Mr. Trump has rejected these intelligence assessments. Mr. Trump even rejected what his intelligence chief said. He said that no, I don't agree with her. Now, do you think it will this change, this announcement by the international agencies that the US agencies rather, do you think it will impact the ceasefire?
I don't think so, because the president is convinced, right? He brokered, the ceasefire. I don't know what were the terms and conditions of this ceasefire. So far, both sides will not attack each other, right? When the president says we have obliterated the three sides completely,
we have to believe it.
we have to believe it. Why he is saying that?
Now, on the other hand, Mr. Netanyahu, he has been telling his people, the Israelis, his government, that we have achieved our objectives. Now, this report by US agency says, no, you have not achieved your objectives. So, how would the situation turn out for Mr. Netanyahu?
President Trump is saying that objectives have been achieved. He gave 2 weeks, 12 days. Then he will think what he has to do. And according to some media reports, he took action to send his, B-52 bombers to Iran. under pressure from Israel. So this is also a fact.
Do you think Mr. Trump is shaken by this report, by the report of the US
Well,
agency?
he was quite disdainful about the report. He summarily rejected it and openly rejected it.
He even rejected that today at in Holland where he is
At the
attending
NATO summit.
NATO
yes.
report.
Yeah.
No, he said that. He said while talking to the press.
Okay, Asif, Israel has seemingly failed to achieve its war objectives. Before the start of the operation, Mr. Netanyahu had two objectives. One was elimination, destruction of Iran's nuclear program. Second was the regime change. Neither has happened. Now, keeping that aside, how do you think Israel fared in the eyes of the international community as champion of regional peace? I mean,
Wow.
Israel said that the world...
Champion of regional peace.
I mean, Mr. Netanyahu said that the world is safer place. I mean, he used these words.
Well, I think it's all his gimmickry which he has been indulging in. And look who is talking. What about Israel's own nuclear program?
Yeah.
You know, so Qatar is calling the pot black. So it is, I think Israel is in no position to summon the world and tell Iran what to do. Yes, there is from the day one, there is enmity. Iran does not accept Israel as a country. They want to, quote unquote, obliterate Israel from the face of the earth. So if that is the position, so Israelis would also want to have their own rhetoric about Iran or talking about saving the world from Iran. While Iran, and then going for peace also and stopping the war. Why did Israel stop the war? They thought that they are going strong. They have destroyed Iran's infrastructure. They have taken away the top brass, their military top brass and scientists. So why did they stop? Reason was that Israel also has the limits. Its Iron Dome was actually drying up to have more, to intercept more.
The interceptors, they were
exhausted, because they were short of defense missiles. So Israel also has a limit. And then there is a panic in Israel, more panic than in Iran. So, Mr. Netanyahu knows his limits also. Had he been confident enough to defeat Iran, he would not have sued for peace.
Yeah.
So, and he will not do that.
And the international community, as if barring aside the EU, the Europeans, even in the European Union, there were countries which had objected and condemned Israel's aggression on Iran. And not only that, you see, Israel has killed almost 60,000 Gazans. It has completely decimated a city. And yet
Gaza.
it talks about democracy, yet it talks about saving the world. I think the international community sees into its deceit. But I don't know why the Europeans do not see into that. Of course, we found a lot of, from the third world, we find a lot of condemnation of Israel's actions. But we don't see the same thing from the Europeans.
At the popular level, you can see that.
At the popular level.
Number of demonstrations held in, Spain, in Paris, in Germany.
But
UK,
how about...
people are condemning it.
How about Iran's position? What do you think... how do the world sees the Iran's position in all this affair?
I think Iran was not condemned. The manner Israel was condemned. It initiated the war.
French Foreign Office said that France urges Iran to engage without delay in negotiations, leading to an agreement that addresses all concerns related to its nuclear and ballistic programs, attention, and its destabilizing activities. For God's sake! It's the destabilizing activities of Israel. Israel has killed 60,000 people, and you're saying destabilizing activities of Iran.
It is actually they have picked up from the past statements.
Yeah.
because Iran is accused of expanding
Axis of
to the neighboring
resistance, you know.
countries.
And German Chancellor, the German
Yeah.
Chancellor says that we support Israel's right to self-defense. Man, what about the right of self-defense of the Gazans?
Yes.
The
Nobody talks about that.
60,000 odd
Absolutely.
people, 130,000 people who have been injured.
Yeah.
What about their rights?
Very unfortunate, but they are not,
I,
coming in to defend that.
What is
Say something,
what is admissible?
Ambassador Asif.
What is admissible for you and me is not permissible for others. This is the way they want to handle. Israel thinks that what is acceptable for them is not permissible for the Iranians.
But their rhetoric is being bought.
No, I don't think,
That-
except for Europe and their
well,
governments.
Europe matters.
And their governments. So they are hypocrites. The problem is it's hypocrisy at its peak.
Okay, Riaz, this 12-day war has convinced Iran that its security is at risk. It needs to develop rapidly an effective defense and an effective deterrent system. We may see Iran rethinking its nuclear doctrine. It may exit NPT. It may expand its ballistic missile program. Do you see changes in Iran's security doctrine? Do you, yeah.
I think, first of all, Iran has to build a relationship based on trust with its neighbors.
Mhm.
That is the key. Situation has changed in the region during the last 2 years. Syria has changed. Iraq has changed. You see Jordan, then other GCC countries. So it is important to build bridges with these countries, so that when Iran is under attack, it should count on someone. There is hardly any. We have seen that. In fact, number of countries facilitated Israel to launch attack against Iran. So Iran has to think, its foreign policy, so that
Well, yes, that's one aspect.
better
That's
relationship
one
with
aspect.
other
But what my question basically is that do you see Iran? This what we have seen during this 12-day war is that Iran's air defense system is non-existent. Its air force is almost non-existent. Its deterrence, that is the missile program, it is not as it should be. It could not counter the Iron Dome.
Yeah, but still it penetrated that.
It did penetrate, but not that effectively.
That is a big. We must appreciate that. Is
We
a big
do appreciate
achievement.
that. I don't think there is any need to appreciate that.
No regional country could penetrate that. Dare, to attack the state of Israel.
Now,
Iran did that.
Do you think Iran has to work on its national security doctrine?
I think Iran is not going to give up as long as present
not.
dispensation is there. And so I think they would go back and try to go see that what lesson they have learned from this war, this 12-day war. And definitely they will take precautionary measures as well as preemptive measures for future.
As if
if
more
there's
than
any
preemptive
future
measures, the Iran needs to develop an adequate and effective air defense system. It's sitting duck now.
From where it should get?
No, I
China
think
or Russia?
With Russia, they already had S-300 and they were negotiating S-400, which is not
But
available at the moment.
It's not available at the moment. India
A
is there on the
country
line.
under
And
sanctions for the last 40 years. What do you expect from that country? It's very difficult.
I think we should
to acquire-
appreciate Iran's resilience.
we do.
And it has stood under all odds, pressures, sanctions from the day one. And they are still there.
So, do you see realignments in the regional politics, Riaz?
Not much. I don't see
much.
much. No, I don't think so.
I think it is shaping up.
It's shaping up.
Yes, for instance, in the UN Security Council, it was China, Russia and Pakistan which sponsored the resolution in the UN Security Council. And Iran is our next door neighbor. We had some problems with Iran, but Pakistan stood by Iran throughout, and it condemned, in fact, strongly condemned Israel's action. It also condemned the US's bombing.
I say we may have condemned all these things, right? But now what Iran needs is not just support, verbal support. Iran needs weapons. Iran needs strengthening of its defense system, its deterrent system.
If I may, Imran, Iran will also have to go back to the drawing board and look at their policies which they pursued in the past. And that expansionist policies and cultivating proxies in countries like Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and then also Hamas, in the name of Palestinian self-determination. Here, there is a problem. This so-called Arab nationalism. Now, Iraqis are more inclined to be Arab nationalists than, say, Shia Iraq or Syria. Same thing. Syria was, after this change with Bashar al-Assad, even during Bashar al-Assad's time, it was taken back in the fold, but ultimately the ISIS man is now ruling in Syria.
Yeah, exactly.
With the support of the Americans, and of course,
and the
Israelis. And Israel is annexing more Syrian territory.
In fact, the gentleman is saying that we should have better relations with Israel.
So these are the changes. It's just not this region where Iran is situated, but the changes are also taking place.
But Iran would need to strengthen its relations, redefine its relations with China and particularly Russia.
There is, they have signed an agreement with China already,
But that's more of economic.
Economic, if you have good economic relationship and while you are under sanctions and you can still supply oil to China, at least you are getting some revenue.
The credit goes to China, which is buying the oil despite all sanctions.
Similarly, Russia is there to extend some defense equipment to Russia despite they are having difficulties.
Is busy with its
but
own
still there
problems.
are only two sources available to Iran at the moment. But most important thing which I already mentioned, Iran has to build bridges with the neighboring countries.
When Mr. Medvedev, the Russian former president, said that there are countries prepared to send their nuclear warheads.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
There
is a statement.
Riaz, it's a former president, a close associate of.
Do you think?
I mean, when he's saying this thing,
we also read that. But do you think Putin will do that?
I don't know. Now, Mr. Putin might not do it, but then you say North Korea had strongly come out and condemned this thing.
They can always provide some technical
Imran,
assistance.
even if they get the nuclear weapon, are they going to use it?
No, I don't think they will use it.
So here, I think it is all
sanity wouldn't.
It's all rhetoric.
That.
It's all rhetoric.
Okay, Iran has long relied, Asif, on asymmetrical proxy warfare that has not worked to its benefit. Iran's arc of resistance is gone. And arc of resistance was considered as a forward defense to safeguard Iranian borders. Now, what are Iran's options now?
Well, I think Iran will have to mellow down its policies towards the Middle East, towards the Gulf states, because they were quite skeptical of Iran. And there were also certain reports like in Bahrain and other Gulf countries, Iranian interference. So Iran will have to reconsider that. And I think it is better that Iran builds its bridges with all the Arab states, especially the Gulf states.
That's what Riaz also said, that most important thing that Iran mends its fences with its neighbors, with the Gulf countries. But Hezbollah may have been weakened, Hamas may have been weakened, Houthis may have been weakened, but they are still there.
Yeah, but Iran is not in a position to logistically support all these.
To rebuild them, to
supply them with equipment and with funding. It's difficult now. But one thing we should also be aware that for any revolutionary leadership, it's very difficult for them, while being following certain revolution, to make compromises and adjustments. That's very difficult.
Asif, now, since you have been there, mate, this is
You
something
too.
which, yeah, I have been there. Now, presence of Mossad spy nets, this is something very disconcerting for the leadership, and they have started operations. And now, in the name of these operations, hundreds of people have been arrested. How would the situation be?
Well, it must have been a shock for the Iranian
It is a shock, but
government
now
and
the
officials.
people are living in a state of fear, aren't they?
They must be, but
They can arrest anyone.
Well,
And the parliament has agreed to give special powers to the judiciary on this thing.
well, they already have that power, and on espionage, there is no leniency anywhere in the world. What to talk of Iran? So, but there is no doubt that Mossad had made its inroads in the
And significant inroads.
Significant
I
inroads.
mean,
The first day they eliminated the top leadership
Yes.
of the
no, but
army.
it started, this Mossad operation, in Iran, it has taken decades.
Yeah, you are right.
Yes, correct. And Israel also waited for decades.
It has waited for decades. Final question to you, both you gentlemen. Has the regime emerged after this, the present regime, the present dispensation? Is it a weakened dispensation or is it much stronger?
I think it is a regime with lots of shock and awe. And they will have to again reconsider where did they go wrong and what were their strengths and what were their weaknesses. We already have discussed that. So I think there is a need for the Iranian leadership to mend their fences also
With the people.
with the people.
Yes?
I agree with Asif, and I think apart from mending, the relationship with the general public, the regime should also focus on improving their performance as far as the welfare of the people are concerned. That is the key.
Yeah, you are correct.
Only then they can win the trust
The
of
general
the
assumption, the general belief is that the regime may have emerged, regime may have been weakened. But what I have seen is, and what I believe is that despite all what happened, the destruction and everything, the Iranian people, they knitted together. They did not, that Iranian nationalism, it prevailed. And the people, despite their feelings or despite their emotions or sentiments against the regime, they have united and they are supporting the regime. So I believe the regime has emerged stronger. Asif?
Yes, I fully agree, because today I was talking to a couple of Iranian friends, and they said very categorically that that there were people, especially youth, who were against the clergy. But now, since Israel has attacked,
The Americans have attacked.
And more importantly, they said they have attacked on our nuclear program, and therefore they are with the regime. So I think it has strengthened the regime. What happens tomorrow? That would be internal politics of Iran. But right now, if Israel thought that they can bring about regime change, I think that is not going to succeed.
You see, this is important thing that a country which has more than 2,000 years of
this is what I was going
civilization
to underline.
behind it,
Strong civilization.
whose borders have not undergone any change in the last century. Now that country, the people of that country, they have a tendency to bind together, stick with each other in times of adversity, and this is what we are seeing.
Fully agreed with you.
Gentlemen, one final question. I think we should address that also. The Pakistan's position, we have supported repeatedly, categorically. Our Prime Minister has talked with his with the President of Iran. We have supported Iran, and I think the Iranians acknowledge that thing.
Their parliament acknowledged that.
Yes, in fact, there were slogans of Pakistan Zindabad, Paindabad. Not only that, but I think there you can say that there is a positive development taking place in Pakistan's regional policy. It is just not Iran. In fact, we entered into trilateral arrangement with Afghanistan, China. We have entered into trilateral arrangement with Bangladesh and China. So I think Pakistan's regional policy is evolving, and it is giving more importance to the region, where if you are in peace in the region, you don't need allies far afield. So I think this is
besides, mate, Iran is going to be there. Yeah. It's our neighbor.
Yes.
And we should support our neighbor, especially when our neighbor is on the right. It has been attacked.
Yes.
And it's a victim.
It's a Muslim country, brotherly country, friendly country, neighboring
irrespective
country.
Of it, irrespective if it's a Muslim country or not.
On
it's
many
our neighbor.
Issues. Yeah, and it's a neighbor, and we must...
exactly.
Because Americans would be in Iran today. Or Israelis.
Absolutely.
But tomorrow they won't be.
They won't be there.
But we are neighbors.
Exactly. Yeah. We will be there forever. Exactly. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, now although both Iran and Israel agreed to adhere to the principles of ceasefire, there were initial violations which enraged Mr. Trump, who, in the words of Times of Israel, said that in foul-mouthed tirade, he savaged Israel for striking Iran, saying Israel violated ceasefire. Now the question arises, is the ceasefire a temporary phase, a temporary pause, or will it lead to a permanent peace in the region? If we look at the 12-day war, Israel managed to inflict heavy losses and heavy damage on Iran, both in terms of lives lost. The top military leadership was eliminated, the scientists were eliminated, almost 600 people lost their lives, but there was also damage on the infrastructure damage, on the roads, hospitals, airports, and Iran's nuclear sites were also attacked. Yet Israel was not able to achieve its goals, its objectives, which Mr. Netanyahu had propounded before the start. First of all, Israel, even with USA, it was not able to eliminate Iran's missile program. Its nuclear facilities, according to Mr. Trump, were obliterated, but the newest intelligence assessment says it was not, and the Iran regime is still there. There's no change. Now the problem for Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu is that in his cabinet there are hardline ministers who do not agree to the ceasefire, and Mr. Netanyahu's his own political survival is now at stake. Now, on the other hand, despite incurring heavy losses, Iran's capacity to resist and will to survive is still there. But having said that, Iran has these operations, this incident has strengthened Iran's belief that its survival is at stake. So the challenges for Iran are quite formidable. First of all, it will have to strengthen its air defense system, its air force, and reprioritize its deterrence. Probably redefine its national security options and reconsider its nuclear doctrine. It would seek to develop strategic relations with China and Russia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in this scenario, the present ceasefire appears feeble and temporary. Thank you for watching Ambassador's Lounge. Please subscribe to our channel and we will be back.